Okay, let's walk through the process of creating an Azure virtual machine. Now, I'm already logged into my Azure account. I have one of the educational trial accounts at this point in my life. So I have $100 in free credits that I can use. And I want to play with creating a virtual machine. Now, if you do not have an Azure account, you're going to need to get an Azure account. You can either sign up for a free student account if you're part of an educational institution. They also have a free account if you are not. Gives you $200 in credits that you can use, but you only have 30 days to use them. Or you can get an account with your organization and sign up for a pay-as-you-go Azure account. Okay. Either way, I'm logged in and I'm sitting here at my home screen. Now, across the top, I have commonly used Azure services, and these are actually going to kind of change. And it's like the quick links. These are the ones that I use the most often. We have some navigate options down here, some tools, and then here is going to be our menu that shows us everything. So you'll see we have virtual machines. And here, if this will show me some free training on a virtual machine, some other useful links, some free offerings. We have an option to just create a virtual machine here, or we can view our virtual machines. And this, let me go back home, actually takes me to the same thing as clicking on my virtual machines here. This is going to show me all of my virtual machines, and this is where I'm going to manage them. Now I don't have any at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and create one. So I'm going to click on my button here to create a virtual machine, and I'm going to choose Azure Virtual Machine. Now, this is going to give me some quick links, help me create a low-cost VM, optimize for high availability, let me pick the right size VM for my workload. Here I can see my subscription. If I have more than one, I can click my drop-down and pick one. Here I have my resource group. I don't have any at the moment. I could create a new, and I can group things together in groups if I want to. This will be my instance details. Notice anything with an asterisk is required. You'll also have a bunch of these little eyes you can hover over and get more information. Now, before I go any farther, I'm going to go ahead and pick my image before I set any of the other information. This is just a me thing. So I'm going to select my, I'm going to start by selecting my image. So I want Windows Server Data Center Edition. Now, it says right away this size is not available in Zone 1, Zone 3, and Zone 2 are supported. What the heck is it talking about? What it's talking about is this, your availability zones. Now, I'm actually going to back out of this because I don't need an availability zone. So I'm going to select here I can select my availability options. Here's where I can select my availability zones. So notice it said this is not available in Zone 1. But if I choose, let me put this in Zone 2 and uncheck Zone 1. Now that goes away. Okay, cool, it adapted. Now in this case, I actually don't need any availability because quite frankly, I'm going to destroy this virtual machine very quickly. So I'm going to say no infrastructure redundancy is required. Okay, before we go any farther, I want you to see this. This is my size, and this size is going to tell me how much it's going to cost to run this. So I can click my little drop down and it will show me this is what's selected. This is recommended by the image publisher. These are how much they run. Now, like I said, I'm not going to keep this thing very long. It's not going to be running any actual real workloads. So I'm going to pick standard DS1v2. It's going to give me one virtual CPU, 3.5 gigabytes of memory, and it's going to cost me $96 a month. Now, that is assuming, by the way, that this is running that entire month. If I have it shut down, then it doesn't cost me as much. Okay, now, I've selected some of these options here, and notice that this has made some assumptions up here, just kind of generic. So, virtual machine name, my VM, I'm going to change this to temp. That changes my group name here. Where do I want this to be? Right now it's in South America, South Brazil. I actually want to move this and put it in my recommended, and I'm going to pick US West 2. So I'm going to put it there. Availability zones, let me reset that. I don't need any availability. Without that, now it's dropped my price to $85.41 a month. If I want to see more sizes, I can select that here. I can select hibernation, But note, hibernation is not supported by the size you've selected, so it doesn't matter if I can't select that at all. I'm going to set a username, and I'm going to put, let me just do D Dalton, and then I'm going to set a password, and then I'm going to confirm my password. Okay, public inbound ports. Now, this is going to be accessible from the public internet. You may or may not want this. In fact, if you'll notice, it says, hey, by default, access, blah, blah, blah. You can tweak this a little bit, and a little bit later on, you'll be able to control where this is coming from. But in general, you probably don't want RDP or remote desktop protocol to be active across the entire internet. So I'm going to set this to none. If I want to allow selected ports, let me come back here. I can pick which ports I want to have access to. So if I was doing a web browser or a web server, ports 80 and port 443 might be really beneficial. But as it is, I want none. Okay, now at this point, this is going to take me to my next page. This is going to take me to my view and complete. So that just jumps me all the way to the end. I want to actually go through this page by page so you can kind of see some of it. I can also click on the pages up here to navigate to my different pages. So my next one is going to be disks. So I'm going to click on the next disks. And I can set VM encryption, although that's with my subscription, the student subscription, that's not enabled. Disk image or disk type, disk size, and again, I can come through here, make changes. SSD, locally redundant storage. I'm going to do standard SSD. Notice it's going to tell me kind of what it assumes these are for. So premium SSD, best for production performance sensitive workloads. Standard SSD, best for web servers, lightly used enterprise applications, and Endeavor test. Well, this is a test, so we're going to do standard SSD. Okay. Notice a little warning up here. That's okay. I'm cool with that at the moment. So key management, I can create and attach a virtual disk, a new disk if I want more than one, or I can attach an existing disk if I've already created one. And then there's a couple of advanced options down here as well. Okay, let me go to my networking. Now again, I'm going to do most of this stuff this is just to walk through the process of creating it, and then we're going to destroy it. So I'm not going to worry about this too much, but this is something that you would think about if you were actually doing a variety of virtual machines or a hybrid environment where you're tying some of the Azure virtual machines in with your local on-prem resources. So it's going to assume that I'm creating a new virtual network, and it's going to assume this IP address range. Both of these obviously can be changed. Do I want a basic network security group? Basic, none. Do I want to allow public inbound ports? That seems kind of familiar, doesn't it? Delete the public IP and NIC when the VM is deleted. Yes, I want to enable that. Accelerated network and load balancing capabilities. All right, so let's go to our management screen where we can choose to use Microsoft Defender for the cloud. We can choose identity management, Microsoft Entra ID. Used to be Azure Active Directory or Azure AD. We can do an auto shutdown. Now, this is something I want to go ahead and enable. Remember, we were looking at that price per month. That assumes that it's running all month long. So if I shut down my virtual machine, that's going to save me money. So I can enable an auto shutdown. So configure your virtual machine to automatically shut down daily. And I want it to auto shut down because of when I'm running my classes. I want this to do this at 8 p.m. and I want to choose Pacific Standard Time, which is UTC -8 Pacific Time right here. And then we can enable a notification before shutdown. Email address, I'm going to uncheck that enable notification. I don't need that. We can enable backups, guest OS updates. Let's go to our monitoring where we can set alerts, diagnostics, and health monitoring. Go to advanced, which gives us the option to do extensions, which is going to be additional monitoring extensions if we're using it that we can. Let me just go ahead and click on this so you can see it. A bunch of different agents that we can install. to tie into an existing monitoring system. If I actually don't want any and I just clicked in here to look, I can come over here and click this, which will close me out of it. And then VM applications to install, and then custom data. This means I have to have enabled or created VM applications already. Do we want to enable user data? Do we want to do high performance using NVMe? Do we want to add this to a host group? And do we want to reserve capacity? Again, this is a demo system, so I'm not going to worry about capacity reservations or anything like that. But it might be something that you want to think about. You get the same service level agreement as normal virtual machines with security reserving the capacity ahead of time, and this will take you to learn more about it. Tags help me find my virtual machines quickly. I can search for things based on tag. Categorize resources, view consolidated billing by applying the same tag to multiple resources and resource groups. And then the last page is going to be my review and create. So this tells me right here my price per hour. So this is going to cost me 11.7 cents per hour that this system is up and running. And subscription credit supply. And then here I can go through and I can look at all of my settings in detail. So this gives me that really quick option to look through and make sure that everything's exactly the way I want it. Also, I want to point this one to you. Download a template for automation. So basically, I can walk through this, set it up the way I want it to, download a template, and then I can automate deploying virtual machines using that template. So I'm happy with it, so I'm going to click Create. And that's going to work on creating. You'll see up here, submitting. We have created. Virtual machine deployment is in progress. And this is going to sit here and run for a little bit. And when it gets done, I should have a functional virtual machine. So there we go. Telling us what's going on as we go. There we go. We have created our first virtual machine in Azure.